Now, joining us live in studio is Liberal Senator Zed Seselja. Now, if I could just get your thoughts on sports rorts before we get to our discussion on the economy. This is pretty damning evidence that came out of the inquiry last night. It does seem like there was evidence that the Prime Minister was directly involved in approving these grants. Well, no, the Prime Minister wasn't involved. In the end, the Minister signs off. The Minister had the authority. And in fact, we'd heard earlier evidence that said that, when Prime Minister, like other members of Parliament, made representations, it wasn't necessarily even more successful. So in the end, the Minister made the decisions, and in the end, it's difficult to comment on correspondence that I haven't seen, but I don't think it changes anything. You don't think it's the smoking gun that Labor says it is? Well, of course they would say that, wouldn't they? And in the end, they were the ones out there welcoming grants in their electorates, and in fact, the former minister, in fact, increased the number of grants going to Labor electorates. So, look, they're going to continue to try and make things of this. We're getting on with the important job of government, which includes things like the budget and the economy and all of those important things that we'll be talking about today. We are dealing in pretty extraordinary times with this coronavirus. The impact, the Dow Jones is up today, but we have seen pretty grim results from OECD about our GDP. We're expecting those figures tomorrow as well. What is the government going to do to stimulate the economy? Is there going to be some kind of economic stimulus package? Well, look, the Prime Minister has obviously said that we will constantly respond to these challenges, and so we respond first to the health challenges, as we are, and I think we've done a very good job, and we'll continue to work very, very hard to keep Australians safe. But we've always, of course, got an eye on strengthening the economy. The PM has said that any measures would be modest, they'd be targeted, and we will make sure that we don't engage in sort of reckless spending, as has been the case in the past. I think what's really important under former governments, what's really important though is that we go into these very significant challenges with very strong fundamentals, and I think the Australian people will understand that our budget is in balance, that we've seen the Reserve Bank Governor saying only a few weeks ago that the economy is strengthening. We see household spending and household disposable income is very high. It's gone up about 5% in the last year or so. Obviously, interest rates have come down, tax cuts are coming through the economy. We're spending a lot on infrastructure. The housing market is strengthening. So there's a lot of fundamental strengths, but yes, these are great challenges. We don't absolutely downplay them, but we go into them with strong budget and a strong economy, much stronger indeed than most of our competitors. You say interest rates is a strength going down, but they're at record lows, especially for deposit holders, retirees. It's extraordinarily difficult for them to deal with interest rates as low as they are now. We have really reputable analysts today saying from NAB, JP Morgan, we could have interest rates cut 50 basis points down to 0.25%. That leaves you no room to move after that, really. Are we looking at quantitative easing? Is that what you'd call a strength? Well, look, let's wait and see. My point was that there is a lot of... the household disposable income has gone up by about 5% in the past 12 months. That's a result of a combination of interest rate cuts, tax cuts and other measures. So households are often saving a lot of that, and we understand that when there are challenging times that people save, but we did see more spending in the last quarter of last year, so we saw retail coming up in some of those monthly figures. So there's a lot of fundamental strengths. Now, what the RBA does will be up to the RBA. The RBA has a mandate to look at an inflation target between 2% and 3%, to look to grow the economy and full employment, and of course we have very similar goals, including growing the economy, lowering unemployment. We've seen very strong jobs growth during our time in government. But the very important point is, as we respond to coronavirus, as we're responding still to the bushfires and recovery, and still responding to the drought, global trade tensions, these are great challenges, but we go into those challenges with, I think, much better fundamentals than most other countries, and I think people should take confidence from that. We'll obviously respond to the measures as we need to protect the community, but we'll also respond to continue to grow the economy. We've seen reports of other countries like Hong Kong or Italy handing out stimulus payments. Is that something we should be looking at in light of coronavirus and bushfire? Well, look, one thing that we don't do is just throw money around, because we don't think that that's actually builds confidence or is good policy. If we'd taken the Labor Party's advice a few months ago when they said we should have been splashing money around, well before we had the bushfires, before we had coronavirus, well, we would be in a much worse position to respond. And if you look at, I guess, the sliding doors moments where we could be if the Labor Party were in government, what would that have done to our housing market as they whacked $387 billion of taxes? So the fact that we're lowering taxes, the fact that we're investing in infrastructure,
we're still delivering on the key services, I think should bring a lot of comfort to the community. Yes, there are challenges ahead, but we're well placed to deal with them, and we're going to continue to respond.
Are you confident we won't see quantitative easing over the next year?
Well, look, monetary policy is a matter for the Reserve Bank, and
But you can set fiscal policy that influences that.
Well, indeed, but there's a lot of factors, but we don't dictate to the Reserve Bank what they should do. They have an independent charter, and we allow them to do their work. The fact that we've got the budget in balance at the moment, I think, gives us some great strengths. The fact that going into some of these challenges, we've seen a strengthening economy, the fact that our housing market is recovering, our resource sector is strong, that household spending has been recovering, all of those things make us well placed. But these are great challenges. You know, who would have foreseen coronavirus? So we're dealing with all of those challenges, but the fundamentals that we're building on, I think, are strong.
Do you think that the government is obliged to deliver a surplus at this point?
Well, look, we've forecast a surplus, and obviously those forecasts change over time. We saw during my EFO updates, and we'll see the update in May. But we have seen a major fiscal consolidation during our time in government, from around a $50 billion deficit to a balanced budget. That puts us in a great position. And of course, our aim is to continue to deliver strong fiscal policy, responsible budget management, but also continuing to grow the economy. And all of those coming together is a great challenge, but we believe we're well placed to do it and deal with it based on our record so far.
Zed Seselja, thank you for your time.
Thanks very much.